the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What's a pity? Tomorrow never certain. What draws behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Today we're talking about something that you hear about a lot in the internets, in media, it seems. The word mentorship and mentors comes up a lot. And I'm starting to get the sense that there's a certain kind of person that says this, and sometimes they have something to sell. This does not take anything away from the relevancy or the importance of what mentorship is about and what exactly it's about. Who needs it? Do we all need it? And perhaps we do. And if we do, what forms does it take? How does one find a mentor? And so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're going to be exploring today. However, okay, to the point I was just alluding to, there is a certain kind of internet snake oil salesman whom tells you that mentorship is the most important thing to their success and why you need a mentor. And you can already sense the feeling. You sense that you're being pulled down this funnel. And they're trying to sell you some courses and the book and some kind of conference at the end and sign up for my mentorship program and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't fall for it. It's part of the whole, shall we say, guru sphere, the whole coach sphere that it's out there now, where people are busy buzzing around the concept of success, talking about the concept of success, meeting and greeting around the concept of success. And the only person that's successful is the person who organizes these meet and greet and books and what have you. Okay, the people whom are successful telling you that the most important thing to their mentorship, or the most important thing to their success was mentorship. What makes them successful is indeed their mentorship program, right? The courses that you're buying from them is the only thing. But anyways, Dr. Thunder, some quick rapid fire questions here to start us off with. Do you currently have a mentor?
Oh, that's.
Leave it up to Dr.
I'd
Thunder.
say I have. I'd say I have several mentors.
You've had several mentors currently.
Yeah.
And have they changed through time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They have definitely have changed through time. So one of the things that I have, and hello, by the way.
Hello. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's changed, and it depends on what it is that I'm trying to do. So for instance, when I started doing interviews and I started creating more consistent content and stuff like trying to grow my channel and collaborating with folks in different sectors of YouTube and all of that, there were certain folks that I reached out to ask some questions to. And they obliged, and they've provided, information that I've been able to to use. That's helped me to move my brand forward and all of that. So that's a kind of mentorship.
Hmm.
Another kind of mentorship is whenever I have started to learn a new instrument, I have always, uh, I have, a lot of great musicians that I know, of course. And so I would frequently, shoot a message or whatever and, and ask for, you know, some suggestions or whatever. And often is the case that folks that know what journey I'm on will volunteer information to the extent that they know me
Hmm.
well enough to think that I would, you know, accept that information. And then, of course, I have spiritual mentorship. I have a, priest um, in my church. I have bosses. That's a sort of mentorship, especially in academia. There's always this talk about um, providing mentorship for junior faculty, as it were. So that's been part of my journey,
Hmm.
and yeah. So the answer is yes, and it's a ever evolving, ever changing sort of scenario.
Okay, okay, okay. So part of the problem, and I think part of the problem that I perceive, right, is evident in the answer you just gave. There is this category called mentorship, which seems to be rather diffuse, and it kind of diffuses itself into many, many different kinds of social interactions that do have some commonalities, but it seems as though before I go back to the commonalities, because as you know, Dr. Thunder, that's all I'm about, is well, what exactly cuts across all these things here? What are three things we could say about all those different examples that you gave so that we can put it in a box? But let me ask you something else. Besides the people that are trying to sell you courses, there is some kind of replacement of fatherhood with mentorship. It almost seems like, oh, just get mentors, and then you don't need a dad. There's this other category. You've mentioned the spiritual mentors and your, shall we say, task specific mentors, YouTube, for example, or your bosses and stuff like that. But then there's this other kind of vague thing that I hear out there, that somehow becoming a full human being, okay, in that there's a role that a parent plays, and somehow your mentors are not supposed to do that. They don't necessarily say it directly there, but do you perceive the same thing that I'm perceiving?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think. Okay, so I think we have to. So there's this sort of master apprentice relationship. You know,
Hmm.
that would be maybe maybe an extreme version of what we would refer to as being mentorship. So that would be on this side, and then there's everything, and then there's just stuff like um, I take lessons with this teacher. He's showing me how to play guitar, or um, there's a lot of talk about leadership in churches, right? And such and such just got is now the leader, is now the worship leader, in the band, and an expectation of someone in that position is to provide some uh dare I say pastoral guidance, right? Or some
Hmm.
pastoral oversight. So there's responsibility uh to sort of manage the day to day and to make sure that folks are not getting lost, as it were, but also a responsibility to produce something at a high level, and then to be able to provide a certain kind of expertise and instruction, um, and maybe even some spiritual guidance. you know this is one of the issues with, I think, the sort of modern church model, is that there is a lot of there's a lot of gray area, and there's a lot that's expected from folks that haven't had the appropriate training, and often the case are not they're not old enough, they're not mature enough to be operating in the way that they are. But you know, when you're talking about a volunteer army, you kind of have to you have to put people that are willing to work. But yeah, so it seems like, again, I know you love when I use the word spectrum, because it doesn't really mean anything. Um, but it's on the spectrum. There's a wide array of things that get sort of thrown into that category. Um, and I'm pretty sure I
Is
didn't
mentorship?
answer your question.
Yeah, is mentorship going to save the community? Is mentorship going to save the fatherless? Is mentorship going to
Mm,
be the
no,
thing that to go? Okay,
no. I mean,
okay, good.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Uh, it's like a case by case sort of situation. Only certain folks will reach out. Um,
The gold standard that you gave, well, maybe it's not the gold standard, but one end of the spectrum that you gave was a mentor, was a apprentice, and then master
Master apprentice.
relationship,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
master apprentice relationship, and that's usually goal oriented. It's a blacksmith, it's a cobbler, whatever it may be. There is
Right,
something that's going on. And then within that approach, the whole way of the samurai goes in where, in learning how to cobble that shoe together, you learn a whole lot of things, right? The way you do
right.
one thing is the way you do everything type of philosophy. But we get it. But there is a goal there as opposed to this different thing, which is a parental relationship, right? So there's a
Mhm.
strange idea out there that mentorship is going to replace fatherhood or that it is anyway kind of comparable. And I find that to be rather crazy because, again, mentorship is something that these social interactions with certain kinds of people. Let me give you some, let me say these three. It would seem that this person has to already have been where you are trying to go, whether it be the YouTube or a master apprentice thing, right? So they're higher up on the totem pole in a particular regard. That's number one. And then number two, they keep you accountable. Number three, they're kind of like a role model, right? So a role model, regardless of how they may even be a role model that you see on TV, right? But in that sense, but a mentor will embody that role model aspect, will also embody keep you accountable aspect, and also they're going to be higher up on the totem pole. Would you say that these attributes cut across the different the cuts across the spectrum, if you will, in terms of the different kinds of mentors?
I'm sorry. Say the
The
specific
three.
things that you want me to look for or to mention.
There is a higher up on the totem pole aspect, right? Which is
Okay, right.
they've been somewhere that you're trying to get to. Then number two, there's an accountability role that they play. They help keep you accountable, whether
Right.
actively, as in okay, you're actively writing a weekly report to Dan Pena so that he keeps you accountable, or you're just using him as something in your head, or because you're doing a certain kind of you're working on YouTube now, and you reach out to this guy, and because you're working on YouTube and you reach out to this guy that works on YouTube and he knows you're working on YouTube, you kind of keep yourself accountable because I don't know, Donovan Sharp is watching you, whatever it may be, right? That kind of thing. And the third aspect, the third aspect is a role model. So role model, keep you accountable, and also they're higher up they've been where you're trying to go. Does that cut across all the
Yep.
different the spectrum? Okay, cool. So this is the thing. Go ahead. And it's not that doesn't sound like fatherhood to me. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Um,
Your father could play obviously. Your father's just it's another person as
mhm.
well. So your father could be a role model, and part of father is being a role model, keeping you accountable. Also, they've been somewhere you're trying to, but it's different. Okay.
Very much so.
Or
Yeah.
okay, cool. So that's why the title it says okay, mentorship is overrated. Obviously, there's a question mark. I put a question mark there, so I didn't quite say mentorship is overrated. I'm being a little bit provocative with it but I'm trying to tease out the crap. The first layer of crap we teased out was the commercialization of the whole venture, right? Everybody out there on their freaking selling you a course is telling you about mentorship. And
Yeah.
whenever somebody starts telling you how important mentorship is, you just watch. They're trying to sell you some kind of mentorship course, generally speaking. Okay. And then, but you said that mentorship is something that's going to arise naturally. This is what something I'm going to ask you, Dr. Thunder. Everything that you just said about reaching out to somebody on YouTube or having a boss and so on and so forth, right? These are just natural things that would arise as a result of transacting in the human world, right? Whether it be in the
Yeah.
world of the economy or any other mode of self improvement, you're gonna naturally do these things. There is no special thing that somebody has to remind you. Hey, have you checked on your mentor today? Do you have a mentor? Am I correct that somehow this mentorship thing, in terms of telling you, hey, you need a mentor, it's a little overblown and should and does come naturally if you are indeed getting ish done?
Yeah. Um, I do think that mentorship in many respects is overrated. And I have at times it has been suggested that I seek mentorship by you know folks mean well when they say that, but it's not. See, you're really only going to learn how to do something if you're out there actually doing it. And then any relationship, uh, any mentorship that you receive is going to be best uh, utilized, absorbed, actually used. So then, therefore, uh, have the potential to actually make you better. Because you're like boots on the ground. You're actually in it. It's not an abstract thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know this is the job that you're doing. Let me show you how to do this, X, Y, and Z. See, that's the way that if there is a benefit to mentorship, that would be the way that mentorship would be most beneficial. I will say that one time when I was in my 20s, early to mid 20s, and I I was playing with Wynton Marsalis, and or actually I just met him. I played with him later, like maybe a couple of years after that. But I met him and had a long conversation with him, and we talked about all kinds of things. And I remember in that conversation, and this is not something that I have particularly up to that point that I had like sought a particular person out for or even used these words, but for some reason I said something to him about, you know, him being a mentor of mine, you know. Um
Mm-hmm.
that's the only time in my life where I have specifically asked someone to be a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Um Now, I have like I said, I have a lot of, I have had uh, several mentors over the years, but it wasn't because I asked them to do so. Um, it was not because I asked them to do so. So
Let me see if there's certain practical things that you're mentioning here. Well, there's certain things that you've mentioned, and then let's try to tease out the practicality of it. You mentioned that you should already be doing something, right? And then whatever things that you're gleaming from this relationship, whatever pieces of information, is going to be immediately put to practical use. Is that,
you
did I hear you correctly in there? Okay. So that's a
yes,
practical aspect that rather than think of, okay, I need a mentor, it's like, well, just go start doing something. And I think that it is not this, the comment on the screen, for example, is in line with that, right? Which is, okay, someone has to be ahead of me. Remember, I mentioned three attributes. I said, hey, this person is going to be ahead of you and they're going to help keep you accountable. and they're kind of like a role model. Okay, simple, right? And you can find these three or a combination thereof, some kind of permutation of these in different kinds of relationship as you go along your way. But the point that Dr. Thunder, one of the points that I hear from Dr. Thunder is you go ahead and start the stuff and you learn the stuff yourself. And then when you encounter naturally, it'll be a natural thing, generally speaking, um, organic, perhaps I should say, encounter this person, then you're going to be able to put their advice to immediate use, which is the best way to do it, anyways. And then, secondly, you're only going to be interesting to somebody whom is a potential mentor if you are already doing something, right? And you're going to bring a certain kind of value. Uh, it could be value, actual value, or it could just be the value of being interesting, right? Because if I see another young whatever, right, that is trying to do something and they're actually doing it, I'm going to be like, oh, let's, it's going to be entertaining to me. And that's of value to me, right? Entertainment means that it's going to engage my interest in a leisurely, fun way. It's not going to be like grating against, it's not going to be grinding my gears. Okay. It's going to be
Uh,
nice and fluid. So you need to be doing that for at least these two reasons. Number one, first one, which we just said that Dr. Thunder said, right? Do the stuff, get the advice, apply the stuff immediately. Secondly, because you need to already be of value and of interest to this person that you're trying to get mentorship from. Hence, you already need to be doing it rather than just be somebody from the outside, never got into real estate, don't know anything about anything, and you're asking, some real estate mogul about the prices of homes in Rancho Cucamonga. It's like, hey, you can look up the prices of homes in Rancho Cucamonga. It's better if you're already in the Rancho Cucamonga market, you're doing certain deals, and then you ask the guy, hey, do you usually wait till the end of this particular thing before you involve the broker? Or do you bring him in at the beginning? That's a more suitable conversation to a mentor, a conversation, or with a mentor, a conversation that involves you already participating actively in the stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, that Dr. Thunder said and always says that never mind if you don't have that credit card. EBT, okay? Have cash value
that's right.
for your food stamps, okay? Whatever
That's
it
right.
may be. Drop 99 cents, $10, $100, $5, $2. Super chats are working and it is much appreciated. And we obviously appreciate you spending the time here with us this lovely Tuesday evening. Okay, so there's a video here by Graham Hancock. I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to say before we start kind of reviewing this.
Yeah, there's a comment saying that, mentor is just another term for teacher. I think there's a lot of truth to that. Um, I think maybe mentorship might be more broad than teacher.
Yeah,
Um,
because a teacher could just be a teacher, right? Teacher could be a
right.
robot somewhere. Doesn't necessarily need to be ahead of you in terms of what you're trying to do. A teacher may never have done many teachers haven't done crap, right?
Yeah.
But they know the textbook and they're good. They might even be good teachers in terms of being able to deliver the information.
And although I do think that uh, mentorship in this sort of general sort of framework somewhere on that spectrum that we discussed, uh, I think is important. Uh, this sort of calling it mentorship specifically, or being able to even rattle off who your mentor is, I think that's of significantly lesser importance.
Hmm.
I don't know that you need an official relationship, and I think that you could be uh, mentored by, I don't know, by a podcast.
100%. Okay, so now when you mentioned that some people ask you to find a mentor, Dr. Thunder, and you were chafing about it, and you say, "Hey, they mean well," and all that kind of stuff. Um, we should notice the thing that always comes up every now and again, which is that their their personality differences, and mentorship when it comes to somebody who's a role model to you, somebody that's going to keep you accountable, and someone who's already been there, is something that we take advantage of as social creatures, all of us. The way in
Mm.
which we take advantage of it, though, is very different from person to person. Let me speak of my type of person. My type of person, Grant Cardone is a mentor of mine. I don't need to actually meet that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily plan on meeting him either. Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, all these people are
Yeah.
mentors of mine. I
Yep.
have the Frankenstein model of mentor. I'm going to cobble it together from different people because I know what I'm looking for. I can abstract. Okay. I don't need to go and sit down and have coffee with this guy and sit and look. I am my personality type. Okay. If you believe in that kind of stuff, is not the common one. So, or shall I say, it's
I mean,
rare. Okay, so most people actually do need to sit down, shake hands, look at the person's eyes and all that kind of stuff. I don't. Right? Go ahead.
yeah, I don't either, and often is the case that might be somewhat irritating to me. Um, I don't know, there's just some aspects of conversation where rather than you trying to figure me out, if you just said the stuff that I need to know, and then we can sort of reconvene once I've actually tried to do some of this stuff, and then I'll tell you exactly what it is, what information I need. You won't have to guess. You won't have to provide a general context. I won't need any of that, and don't need any of that. And often, sorry to say, I am somewhat irritated by that. I
Got you.
know what
Got
I
you. Got you.
need. Just tell me. I'll ask you a question. You tell me what it is. Um, yeah.
Good, 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 good. So you're a good abstractor, basically, is what you're saying. Makes sense. You're a PhD after all. So if you're an abstractor, you don't necessarily you just dump the information out there for me. I'll get what I want out of it. When I ask you a question, just give me the answer. It doesn't need to be highly contextualized. I can take different things from different contexts, sew the outfit that I need to my needs. But I still have mentors. It's just that it's not in the way in which the majority of people would look at it. And this is not saying that the way majority of people do it is they got to be right, right? Shout out to Jordan Peterson. When it comes to majority, well, number one, we're in a democracy, and then number two, when it comes to evolution, or just when you look at a species, and if the majority of the species is a particular way, I believe strongly that if you're an outlier, you should not be agitating outlier positions. If you're an outlier and you enjoy it, thank God, stay there. But stop saying, hey, my way should be the way everybody does it. It's like, if your way should be the way everybody does it, the species would die. If everyone was like Ike, the species would not survive. To be honest, I mean, right? You need you need the sheep. Anyways, let's go ahead. I said Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock is a totally different person. Okay, this is Graham Stephan or whatever, YouTube guy, and I came across this particular video of his, and the way he was approaching this whole mentorship thing kind of jived with my feelings and with the things that Dr. Thunder's already said, especially with the aspect of you got to be doing something. Okay, this idea that the mentorship is the be all and end all, and it's going to be your path to success, it's the golden ticket, the silver bullet. It's like, no, getting shit done, getting ish done, okay, getting your putting your nose on the grindstone, actually doing things is the main ticket. And then organically. You're going to meet people whom are ahead of you, and you're going to try, okay, to put yourself in a position to glean information from them, use them as role models, use them to keep yourself accountable, and you're going to keep on going ahead. That's the idea here. So let's see what this dude has to say. Fair use, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So this is probably one of the most important topics.
Is it? I got myself. Do I have to reduce the
Yeah, that's probably going to be the ticket.
quality? Let's take him down, all the way down.
What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So this is probably one of the
There we
most
go.
important topics that I'm going to be discussing so far. And it's about mentoring. And I feel like so many people are so caught up right now in trying to find a mentor. They think that a mentor is going to be the end all be all of life and success and business. And they feel like they need a mentor first. And then they can go and start doing things that they really want to do versus just doing those things now and then finding a mentor naturally as they go along. Now, the common theme with all of the mentors that I've had is that I didn't go up to them and I didn't ask, hey, will you be my mentor? Will you teach me? I have to say, you guys, that is one of the most common questions I get from everybody is, Graham, will you mentor me? Graham, will you teach me? And that's probably one of the worst ways to go about it. And I'll be completely honest with you. I can't ever see that working. First of all, it tells me nothing about you. It tells me nothing about how motivated you are, how passionate you are, how knowledgeable you are. Same with asking me questions that you could find off Google in a search. It's different to ask my opinion on something than ask me something that you can Google for 2 seconds and find the answer of. It shows me that you've done no research whatsoever about what you want to do. You don't have the capacity to find the answers on your own and be resourceful. If someone's going to teach you something, they want to know that you're 100% in, that you're really dedicated, that you're enthusiastic, that you're passionate.
How many people have asked you to mentor them, Dr. Thunder?
Yeah, a number of folks, and of course, it's my role as an academic, and in particular, one of my primary roles is as an applied professor, where I am teaching, saxophone students, and of course, my teaching of them goes far beyond just teaching them how to play the instrument. It goes into stuff like, networking and, how to get a gig when you finish your degree, getting your social media presence together, using it in a particularly focused way. There's all kinds of things that we get into. So I've been asked by folks, I've been sought out by folks, and then as a regular part of my primary employment, it's something that I engage in frequently.
And yes, to Leroy. So if you remember my 3 points, someone has to be ahead of you in a particular regard, and then they have to be a role model and also keep you accountable. So I don't necessarily need to think that Grant Cardone is smarter than me for me to see him as a role model, or for me to help me keep me accountable, or for him to actually be ahead. He's got billions of dollars in real estate. I don't, right? That kind of thing. And being the kind of abstractor, and let me take a point here, because there's something that the censor types out there, the people who like to put little round pegs in round holes, and the regular majority of people, okay, they would look at Grant Cardone, and if they can't swallow the whole pill, then they spit it out. And I'm like, if there, it's usually there's a tiny little portion of something that is key in any particular endeavor that you're in, because you're already doing the thing. You're gonna know what that tiny little thing is, and when you see somebody show you that 1% of that thing, boom, you take it. Okay, I'm sounding abstract. That's what I do. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm sounding abstract, but the idea that Grant Cardone and all his crazinesses, okay, or Jordan Peterson, for example, and all his weirdness, that I'm taking a whole cloth, No, I'm taking exactly what I want from Grant. And a lot of times people want to talk about the other things. Like I don't, I don't need to. In other words, I know exactly what I'm looking for, so I don't need to be like, well, was he lucky, or was he? Did he just stumble upon the money, or this? It's like, no, I know exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I know exactly what I'm getting from him, and every other thing else, I spit out the bones. Right? You want to say something, Doctor?
Yeah, yeah. Eat the meat, spit out the bone. That's the principle. And one thing that is created some level of frustration for me is that often is the case that everything that you mention that came from a particular source, in particular, if that source is somewhat polarizing, has to be, uh, it has to be softened, or it has to be, a context needs to be provided that I don't agree with everything that they say. I don't agree with everything that they say. It's like we have to do that more than actually talk about the thing that we actually dig about, the person, the principle that we're interested in. And the thing is that eating the meat and spitting out the bone, that's called being an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is what you do all of the time. And there is no person on earth, no person that has ever existed except for maybe Jesus, that I would categorically and under every circumstance and situation believe everything that they say, agree with everything that they say. Look, man, I go to church, the preacher is preaching, and I am verifying. That doesn't seem like that's in the Bible, man. I don't know. I'm not sure about this. So I don't just believe what somebody says because it came from them. Okay. Now, one of the issues that we get into with this sort of cult of personality, see, it
Mm-hmm.
sets up this problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, the problem with cult of personality is you have to swallow wholesale all of the good, all of the bad, all of the everything about a person. You got to take it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm against that. See, under my approach, by actually just addressing the arguments and not whatever personality the person has, whatever skeletons that they have in their closet, I don't care about that. I just care about the information. And I realize that most people don't do that.
Yeah.
But I also think that that is a sign that maybe most people aren't very mature.
So there's a cult
Because,
of
I mean,
personality thing you said there, and the maturity thing that you said there. I want to hold on to that for a second,
sure.
but also I want to drill in this point that the master apprentice model, which you gave, and then which is kind of like the high point, if you will, and then I said, okay, abstractly, there are three things that you're looking for. This person has to be ahead of you, blah blah blah. And also, you said that this has to do. We've been harping on the point that you got to be doing something. Hence, this idea of luck that people talk about all the time is rather, it's like pointless. Everybody has luck, good and bad. So to
Mm,
say that, what, Miles David, he was lucky. It's like, if you are a musician, there's a specific thing you're looking for from Miles Davis.
mm,
And it has nothing to do with whether he was lucky or not. Like, like the weird little personality person, I worship the person or I demonize the person, uh you know thing is a strange preoccupation that most people have. And it's like, if you're doing something, as I said, there's a nice little 1% thing here that someone else who has done it, and you can see how they did it, you get it from them. Who cares about their luck? Like, this is not what, like, it's almost like you're supposed to be like, oh, I believe 100% that this person did it with all, in some kind of superhuman way. And I'm going to worship them and listen to everything that comes from them. That is not the point. That's why I wanted to make this video, okay? You need to get your ass into the seat and start driving that goddamn car, doing something so that you know when you see another driver and how they shift from 4 to 3, you don't have to worry about whether or not it's their father's Benz or whether they were lucky or not to not hit. It's like, dude, you're just trying to look at their gear shift. That's it. Gear shift. Not all the other things that people get distracted with. Okay? And the people you're mentioning, to go back to your cult of personality thing, that do this thing, either they swallow whole cloth or they spit out, are more prone to being sucked in by gurus, more prone to being worshipers of people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
They think they're cynical, they think they're skeptical, right? But they're actually the ones that get fooled because they're looking for a whole thing. And it's just like, dude, I don't care about 99% of anything else this person is doing. I just like their gear shift. I just like the way that they close that deal. I just like the particular approach that they take to financing that thing. I don't give a F about any of those other kind of stuff. Anyways, did I cut you off, Dr. Thunder?
No. You could, and you could take the same thing. Like if somebody like a Donovan Sharp or like Kevin Samuels. Okay. Polarizing figures. Okay. And they say, the kind of stuff that they say, it kind of tests your willingness to go with the arguments and not with sort of superficial aspects of like the way that they deliver stuff, or if they're using profanity, or if they're if they have a sound effect with a sound effect that seems to be quote unquote demeaning to women or something, whatever.
If they're divorced, if they were broke at one time, all that stuff people like talking about.
That's right. So, but if you just looked at, if you stripped away even all of the content components, if you said, okay, I'm not even listening to anything that they're saying, I'm going to mute, and just look at the quality of presentation, and in particular with Donovan, the constantly reinventing himself, the constantly tweaking and improving his presentation. Both Kevin and Donovan do that. But that constant just pressing forward, look, you don't have to agree with anything that they say. You can look at that and say, man, I can get something from that. But unfortunately, folks, they're not willing to, for the most part, folks are not willing to do that. And it's it's disappointing. It's actually, honestly, it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
Okay.
It's like a real flaw of humanity.
Oh, interesting. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, to bring up your leadership point, right? Because I feel you completely, right? I'm always like, what the hell are people doing? Why are people talking so much, right? Why are people not just eating the meat, spitting out the bones? Why are people not getting the stuff? Like, it's like, I'm team Wolf of Wall Street or I'm team Grant Cardone. It's like, no, I listen to both of them, even though they don't like each other, right? I get my neuro-linguistic programming, little fine-tuning from team Wolf of Wall Street. And there's some other crazy man things that I get from Grant Cardone, okay?
Yeah, I like Donovan and O'Shea.
There you go, for example, Donovan and O'Shea, whomever these kind of quote-unquote rivals may be. I like Obsidian and I like MOT.
Sorry, guys.
So whatever it may be, right? But here's the thing. Here's the whole leadership thing I'm going to ask you, Dr. Thunder. what you're noticing here is that people actually don't want to do things. They rather sit at the feet of Charles Manson and do his bidding. Okay. People want to be led. Okay. And there is a tendency for, especially introvert types, to want to just be like, oh, why can't everybody just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, which is impossible. But it's because it's impossible that people say that. But the term is there because it's impossible. That's why it's there.
Right.
But the idea is, okay, well, why can't everyone just kind of sit there and be this artificial intelligence, abstracting things, taking things, and just constantly busy, constantly working, constantly improving? The truth is, no, they're not going to be that way. And you, Dr. Thunder, need to be a leader. What do you have to say about that? That no, people are not going to do that. And it's not a flaw in humanity. It is your position to find a flock and they will follow you. And they're not meant to do stuff. They're meant to follow you. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I think that what you're this is true. This is true. I think there's all different kinds of folks, and I don't know. It just makes what it ends up making happen is, as you were saying, it makes people more susceptible to these fake gurus and just dig in your wallet and give us $5.99, and we'll be able to do X, Y, and Z, and your life will never be the same, and all that kind of garbage. I don't know. You're right. You're right, man.
Yeah. So the pushback, and this is a pushback that I give myself to, which is that, hey, you're complaining about other people, but really this is you not meeting your responsibility of
Right.
leadership. And
Right.
the extroverts out there, I have one or two extrovert friends. I have many extrovert friends. Well, I don't have that many friends. I shouldn't. But I have one or two actual close people that are competent, that are also extroverts, that I tend to that make this thing clear to me. Now, because they're competent, high functioning people, that's why I would even listen to them, right? In terms of this idea of engaging with the masses, right? And leading them. Because for me, engaging with the masses, I gotta be like, okay, there's nothing there. I'm not getting anything. I gotta go back to do stuff, right? They're like, no, you gotta lead them. And it's a struggle of mine to be like, okay, I guess they are correct, right? There is you can't just take all your gold and go hide it, right? You can't expect that they're gonna go to the gold mine with you, the masses. You need to take your gold, put it in front of their noses, and then lead them with it. If the imagery works.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Is your wife an introvert or an extrovert?
she's a little bit more of an she's more of an extrovert. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's an extrovert too.
Yeah, tends to work out that way. And so she can be there listening to like my dad, for example, talk to her for on and on. My dad's like one of the biggest extroverts in the world. Okay. And so my wife is like a buffer, like, hey, go. I push her like I push her in front of the bear, like, hey, go listen and talk and all that stuff. I cannot, like it. And the thing is, it's almost unfair sometimes because I'm really extreme with this inability to just take talk of a particular kind. It's not about ideas, and it's really really hard for me, man. And well, I struck a nerve there.
Well, I'm just the same way. It's very difficult for me. It's very difficult. I've used the illustration frequently that if I went to a mixer, some event where I didn't know anybody, and it wasn't really necessarily around a particular topic. So I couldn't just randomly walk up to somebody and start talking about bebop saxophone or something, you know. And at least that gave me something to like hide behind, you know. Um, but where nobody really knew any of the stuff that I knew about, and I had to basically compete for people's attention and a bunch of garbage small talk, you know, uh, an hour of that would require 2 days of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's really bad. I really, I really can't do it. And I just have no, I have no patience. And one of my issues too is that juxtaposed with um, sort of interfacing with the dating market when I was single, of course, um, was a real challenge because I figured out that I could, if I could just go deep, then it took a lot less energy. But that really scares people.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't, when you meet somebody, you really can't start talking about real stuff. But see, that's the only thing that would be keeping me interested in having a conversation with you right now is if we're going to talk about real stuff. So that's like really the only thing I can I can do to just try to survive.
Let's point the barrels back in our direction,
Sure.
right? Now, for me, I have a whole showman's side to me, which involve oratory and stuff like that. So I can play that game, or I can go. But it's a performance, and it takes energy. And if the people there are not giving it back, if it's not an interesting crowd, it's really gonna suck. Okay, right? Like,
Yeah.
but oh no, yeah, I can do all that, whatever the hell it is, control the room, or type stuff. It's what I do for my job sometimes, but that's a separate thing. Now let's talk about the actual
Right,
small
because you're
talk.
not competing for attention. You're not competing for attention.
Yeah,
You're the center of
in the job,
attention,
yeah,
and so right, so that it's an interesting. People
and
get that
even in
confused. They
the
don't understand that.
yeah, exactly, and even in the when I say control the room, what I do is I get to be the center of attention, and then I start doing my performance thing. If it's not a job or even a gig, right? When I'm doing that whole life of the party thing, I've gotten everybody's attention, right? And I have my ways of doing that, right? I can do that.
Yeah.
If I want to, but anyways. But it's still tough, right? In terms of, after that, I want to just leave and I'm like, oh my God, that was hard. The next day, I actually feel it. I'm like, I'm drained. I'm like, that was, I'm like, this is stupid. Okay. Uh, but let's talk about small talk a little bit, okay? Just for a second here. The thing is, I was listening to Brett Weinstein and his wife Heather Hine, the Dark Horse podcast. Great podcast, by the way. And they were talking about this small talk thing, and they were talking about if you go deep, if you just talking about someone's soul in the first encounter, they might not know how to handle that. Most likely, will not know how to handle that.
Right.
Um, what is the purpose of the little meaningless greetings that we give each other when we say, "How are you doing?" for example, right? Or, because it is a form of small talk. And from an evolutionary lens, meaning a lens that just says, if something that takes energy has been going on forever, it's typically serving a purpose, right?
Mhm.
So, what is the purpose of this? Good morning. How are you? I'm fine. Right?
Mhm.
Well, it's because we're reading subtle cues. It's not about, we expect you to say, I'm fine. But if you say, I'm fine, right? We're like, whoa,
Mhm.
okay, there's something off. So, what we're trying to do with small talk, okay, now this is not because there are interesting ways of doing the small talk thing. And like, you're probably thinking, huh, if I'm talking to somebody Dr. Thunder is probably thinking that, oh, if I meet somebody that understands this use of small talk, I probably won't be bored with them, like, and if because they'll be able to do a certain kind of dance with me, and they can kind of, you can immediately see a range with them. But basically, what we're trying to do with small talk, and by we I mean just the whole cultural evolution thing, is that we're trying to gauge, presumably, hypothetically, we're trying to gauge these nonverbal cues, see where somebody is at. Are they able to dance with me before we get to anything consequential? What's their facial expression like? Are they a psychopath? Is there a disconnect? Something like that. And it doesn't take the problem is, it doesn't take too long to figure that out. Within the first 3 minutes, that should be done, and then you can go deeper. But the problem is sometimes people spend 30 minutes in small talk. What are your thoughts on small talk being something that we use to gauge these nonverbal cues and whatnot?
Yeah, I know that to be the case. I know that to be true. And of course, I am capable of small talking. I just pay for it. I pay a high price for small talking. And sometimes, at times, and I've had to sort of temper this and gain a different perspective on it. Sometimes it has been sort of a great irritant, and I've almost been short with folks because I don't want to spend the time. I don't want to spend the time doing something that I don't have evidence that it will be worth anything. I don't want to do this if there's a real chance that you're going to, for whatever reason, not be interested in a real conversation. If this is not going to lead to a real conversation, then I don't really want to. It's just. So
yep.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to our man Graham. So far, we've been agreeing with
Sure.
him. He's like, stop asking me about to be my mentor. You need to be doing stuff already, so on and so forth. Go ahead, Graham.
And that you bring something to the table, not just trying to take something. You always have to offer something in return. I've always come in with something that I've offered them, which is either my enthusiasm, my passion, my drive, my focus. There have been a multitude of things that I've come into the table that can benefit everybody. And it's not just like me going up to somebody asking, will you mentor me? Like, that's such a bad question. Same with going up to somebody and asking them like a very generic question that just you can't answer. Like another one I get is like, Graham, like I want to make $1 million. How can I make $1 million? Please help me. And that's honestly, that's such a generic question. It's like, I can't answer that, you guys, for real. It's like there are a million ways to make $1 million. You need to go into it asking very specific questions. So here's my recommendation with how to find a mentor. First off, you need to start on your own path. You need to do things already. You don't need to wait around for a mentor to come and pick you up and swoop you up and then bring you to success. You need to be on that path already. So step number one, be on that path, do your own research, and start as if you already have a mentor. Just start right now, start doing your research, start doing whatever you want to do. And I think naturally and organically, people are going to see your passion. They're going to see what you have to bring to the table, and they're naturally going to want to help you out. Successful people usually aren't the type to be like trying to hoard all their information, to hoard everything that they have. Every successful person that I've seen personally has been some of the most giving people you would ever imagine. I mean, they're the most generous people in terms of what they have to offer. And a mentor, by the way, is less about giving you step-by-step guides about how to get somewhere, but they're more about providing experience.
Go ahead.
This thing that he said, I'm gonna press this a little bit.
Go ahead. I know what you're gonna say.
This thing that successful people are generous. And I've heard a sort of version of this amongst musicians describing certain artists that they've worked with. and they will say stuff like, "Oh, it's like, the baddest cats. They're usually like the goodest, the nicest people, and like this." And I'm like, I'm gonna call cap on that. I don't see that to be the case. And maybe I'm not saying that they're fibbing. They're trying to pull my leg. I'm saying that maybe they just were lucky and they happened to, in their journey. I got to stop using the journey word. It's making me sound too atmospheric or something. On their path and their career, they just happen to get lucky and encounter folks that were friendly. In my experience, it's not that at all. It's
Dr. Thunder,
unusual to find
let me
someone.
call cap on your cap.
Sure.
I think that, and you haven't gotten to the end of your point, but what I sense is you're seeing a certain kind of person. You're mistaken, perhaps, a personality trait that you. Now, these people may be telling you, these people are so friendly and so on. Maybe that's what they're saying, right? In which case, I completely agree with you that the two don't necessarily relate at all. As a matter of fact, there tends to be an inverse relationship between success and being nice.
Right.
Nice typically means broke. Okay, that's what it.
Let's go.
Nice equals broke. Okay, because in this jousting world of either you gotta, because number one, you gotta do violence to yourself. Okay, to become good at guitar, you really need to sit there alone practicing. To become good at any particular thing, you need to tamp down on your lower needs. Okay, and in order to pursue things that are higher, so you're doing violence to yourself, and hence you're not gonna have a lot of patience for the softness that's outside there in the world. And then you're gonna go out there and you're gonna compete in the world and you're gonna put a dent in the universe. None of that stuff is about being nice in a particular way of the term. What I do know, and what I think Graham is saying here, because I also say it, is that when you're actually good at something, you want to give that away to any worthy person that you come across. Like, the opposite is this. Some people say that, successful people, they want to hoard their information. There's a certain kind of community from which this comes from. Let me not, ADOS. There's this idea that, these people just want to they're going to hide their information. It's a scarcity mindset. What kind of a weird mindset? Like, people who know and are successful want to hide their stuff. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. People are, because it's so lonely at the top, people are dying to find a protege, right? A prodigy, uh, somebody that they can actually give that info, or a means of
Yeah.
dispensing that information. And that is the truth about successful people being generous with their information. Not on a one-on-one. No, I don't want to see you, okay? Okay. Like, I don't want to necessarily have you waste my time, or I'm not, these people are not nice per se, but to find somebody that is passionate, all the things that Graham has been saying so far, passionate, has done the work, and so on and so forth, all day, I'll give you all the information, because you're putting that seed in fertile soil. Is that
But don't you think they're
interpretation
going to
work?
be a lot more discriminating, though? So, in
Well,
other
that's what I
words,
said. Like, it's very lonely at the top, and when you find that worthy person, no, it's not the masses. It's 1% of people you're looking for. I agree.
okay, yeah, and I guess that's the so that's I think that's the part of it that makes it, even if it is the case that with a unusual, with a unicorn, that they will be super generous. With the goose that laid the golden egg, that they will be generous with that person. But the fact is that since most folks, almost nobody is that, the effect of it is a seeming standoffishness and sort of hyper scrutiny of folks that um, that are approaching and wanting to gain certain kind of access.
You're probably a little bit of that way too, aren't you?
Yeah, I definitely am. Yeah, look, don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. Don't come over here acting like you somebody and you're not going to do nothing. I know what people are like. So,
So
so
that,
now,
I think that, yeah, this is the
but
point. That if somebody is ever saying that successful people are generous, generally writ large, blah blah blah, personality, blah, 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 nope, 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 that they're not. But it's not actually contradictory because they put the seed where they know it's gonna germinate and grow, right? They're not
right.
hoarding the seed, but
Yeah,
they're not.
you're
You
right.
don't have time. Yeah. Anyways, shout out to Jay Bones in the building. Says salute Doc Thunder and Ike. Good evening. So that's a $2 super chat. You want to give him a? He gets no sound effect for $2.
Oh no, he can get something. He can get a little something. No, that's a little bit of an overkill for a
Yeah, yeah. He
$2 super
got
chat,
the
but
full $100 thing.
that's right. He got the whole thing. But he's been very supportive. Uh, constantly supporting all my content, and then now he's over here too. So thank you, sir.
So let me ask you something. I'm interested in that in those friends of yours that said that they met these people are the nicest people. What exactly would they? I heard your interpretation of what they're saying. That, but were they really saying that? And whom did they meet? You don't have to give names or anything like that. But what exactly do you think they were trying to? What game were they playing there, or
Okay,
was it just name dropping?
so here's the thing. So the context of the conversation was, or is, you know, I don't like working with divas. I don't like working with, folks that are jerks. People that are hard to work with, don't respect your time, all of that kind of stuff. So that was the context. And so, in that context, the term nice or, such and such is actually a really good person, or actually such and such was actually really easy to work with, or, this kind of thing. That's the part where I'm like, yeah. So I interviewed Leland Sklar, and Leland has a real unusual look. It's a very he's got a long beard. He looks like skinny Santa Claus. He's a super great musician. He is a great bass player. He's been on everything. He is recorded with everyone all the time. I mean, James Taylor. He's the bass player on the what's the name of the tune? Your Smiling Face. James Taylor, Your Smiling Face. That's Leland Sklar playing bass on that. Okay, but he has played with everybody. And I interviewed him and I said, to me, it seems like it's unusual when you meet someone that they're warm, inviting, they're they're not a jerk, that's like an unusual thing, especially when you given how much when you consider how much success. So if it's a star, you know, if it's someone that the paparazzi is following, then dealing with them it usually is going to be like a nightmare. It's not going to be a great experience. Okay.
Mhm.
And of course, Leland has played with like everybody and in big stars and everything. And when I said that, what do you think of that? His response was this.
There you go. Thumbs up. He gave a thumbs up for those of you whom are listening only.
Yeah, that was his response.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
so it just,
the,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's possible that people could have just looked up and had really good experiences, only good experiences, but
I wonder why it even matters. I
I
wonder
don't know.
why people are even going out there looking to see whom is nice and whom is not, right? Um,
Well,
but
it was only in the context of, like when I was talking to Leland, for instance, I brought that up just because he is not like that at all. He is
gotcha.
super. He is just unusual. He's just he was. The interview was an easy interview. Like,
Mhm.
uh, it was just just talking about all kind of stuff, and he had mutual respect, all of that kind of stuff. Where that's not necessarily what you see as folks, sort of climb the ladder. Um, so anyhow,
I see. I see. I see. Yeah. So I have that particular bone to pick with people whom think that people are hoarding seeds when in fact they ain't shit, right? And like even if they gave you the freaking seeds, you wouldn't do anything with it, right? So shout out to
right.
MOT, for example. He talks about all the free content he is given about the transportation industry, and you might still find somebody thinking that MOT is a like, oh, he's just well, he's a selfish, but there are other places where people pay him for this information, right? And there's that idea out there. But generally speaking, whether it be a Elon Musk type or Steve Jobs type, they're not gonna be nice unless they can see that there's something because of what they have to give, right? They always like, oh, but once they know that you can actually take what they're giving, they definitely want to deliver it. They're not gonna hide it and be like, oh, you because for me it's only relevant when when the competition thing comes in. Because the idea is they're not gonna give it to you because they don't want you to compete with them. Well, number one, you're a dumbass, you can't compete with them. And then number two, if you could compete with them, they're not going to hide it anyways because that's just not human nature. It's lonely at the top, and people are always happy to see another, fellow traveler, similar soul that can actually, take what they're. I'm trying to find some kind of um, jive type of what's the term? It's like the kind of thing you would say in a black exploitation movie, like kind of buy what they're selling. I don't know what.
Oh, right, right.
you know? Anyways, let's see here in the last few minutes what Graham has to say.
Experience and wisdom and knowledge and their opinion. Because here's the biggest difference from what I see from a lot of the comments I get and from the comments I get from people who are already on the path. The comments I get from people in the first mentality of like, will you mentor me? Will you teach me? They ask me questions that they can find out very easily with a Google search. Now, no disrespect to that. These are all great questions, but it tells me that you really haven't taken the time to do any research whatsoever. The questions that I get from people that I know are really going to do well are very specific and they're very opinionated. It's less about, Graham, what type of rent can I get in San Bernardino, but more about, Graham, why did you buy in San Bernardino versus this area? What is your experience renting with a tenant in San Bernardino versus renting to a tenant in Los Angeles? Have you noticed there's more demand in that price point than this price point? They're very opinionated questions, and that's where my expertise comes in. It's not telling you the average price per square foot of San Bernardino, because you could find that on your own. Like, you need to do some research. And that's what a mentor, in my opinion, really has to offer. It's less about facts And it's more about opinions and experience and knowledge and wisdom that they have to bring to the table. And I don't think a mentor is going to be someone, again, to swoop you up and take you to success and like save you necessarily. And they're not going to give you the step by step advice to getting exactly what you want. You need to already be on this path. You need to already be doing exactly what you want to do. And usually, naturally and organically, things happen and things work in your favor from people who see you already on that path and want to help you succeed. And you don't need that as
What do you think about this naturally and organically, and things will happen? All things happen for the good, type of thing. I get the sense that you probably you probably don't like that kind of talk. And if so, what exactly is it that you don't like? If you don't like it, well, what do you
Well,
think?
yeah. So I mean, I do agree. This sort of this sort of organic, uh, you know, you're already doing it, so that your questions, the questions that you're going to ask, are going to reflect that um, you're not a noob.
Hmm.
Shout out to my son for that vocabulary term. Um, you're not a noob or a naked skinny noob. That's the lowest form of it.
That's the lowest
That's
woman.
the very lowest. And apparently
Naked
something
skinny
called a
dude.
hacker or Thanos hacker. That there it is.
Mm,
Thanos hacker is the top. Naked
mm.
skinny noob. That's the. I don't know why it has to be
Sounds
naked.
like online gaming terminology. But
Right,
anyways, go ahead.
right.
Okay.
I don't know why the noob has to be naked, and then I don't know why skinny is also there. That's but it's worse than just being a noob. Um, uh, and somehow the step up from noob goes straight to pro.
Hmm.
I don't. It seems like there's a gap,
Wow.
but in that sort of. So anyhow, but so I think that's good stuff, and I always can sniff that out. Like if somebody's asking me stuff that's just that can just be a Google search, or they haven't actually done any research about me or about any of the kind of stuff that I do. And so the kinds of stuff that they ask is totally pedestrian stuff that's not even worth asking me. So that is a turnoff. As far as like, I think things have to be more sort of planned out and strategic for them to actually be effective and for them to actually work. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and if you're a spiritual person, if you believe that God's providence is there and everything, yes, that's fine. There's some language in the Bible that talks about ordering our steps.
Hmm.
See, that suggests to me that there are specific things to do, and
Hmm.
there is an organization and an order of which things to do when. And so it seems to
Hmm.
me that it's not just about, I prayed and I'm going to start walking in this direction, and let's just see, you know, see how this thing, let's see how, I don't know that that's the really the thing. I think it's more strategic than that. Um,
Hmm.
and related, of course, but kind of tangential to this point is every time that I have prayed, I have um, tried to figure out, okay, I'm not getting what I want. What do I need to do to get myself to the next step?
Hmm.
The response that I have always gotten is more work. It's always more work. It's never less work. It's never easier. The answer always comes in the form of more time committed, more effort. It's always that. So if I'm trying to solve whatever the issue is, it's always, the answer always is more work. That's always been the case for me in my life, in my entire life. It's always been that. It's never been different than that. And so you should be skeptical, highly skeptical
Mm-hmm.
of advice or that people give you, or these mentor gurus or whatever, that are telling you that just do this thing and it's going to get easy. Just do this thing, and the path there, you're doing too much. You're doing too much work. You're doing too much. Now,
Okay.
maybe you're doing some of the wrong things, but you're not doing too much work,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the answer is going to invariably be more work. And I'm sorry, that's the reality. And if you want to shrink away from that, and you want to, you're trying to find the I don't know, work home balance, or whatever. If that's what you're trying to do, then you can get you a factory job, and I'm not knocking anybody with a factory job. Get you a factory job, 40 hours, and then on the weekends go to the bar, whatever. That's fine. I'm not hating on that. But if you're trying to climb the mountain, it's going to come with more work.
So, this is an interesting point, because I think that there's a narrative preference, and also, we all like different narratives. The work part, it's like, for me, that part is almost like a given, right? Like it's not even a question, right? So you might find people like me, for example, and for example, what Leroy says here in terms of, okay, here's what success is. Objectively, when you look at it, if you just come from Mars and just look, this is what you're going to see people doing. They're going to be taking risk, and then they're going to be learning from their mistakes, blah, 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 working, going ahead, right? And that is what it takes objectively. Now, for someone like me, I'm kind of biased towards the narrative of simplifying. Now, this might only be just me. Like, it might not work for anybody else. But I don't really even think of the planning, in the sense that, look, objectively, you're going to see things go in a sequence. If you're not, I'm talking from subjectively now. Subjectively, I have a perspective. But when you look at me objectively, you're going to be seeing these sequences of things happening. You're going to see mistakes, learning, okay, planning, right actions taken, blah, blah, blah. But subjectively, what's going on feels very different. It's not at all, and you probably already know where I'm going with this, Dr.
Oh,
Thunder,
yeah.
in the sense that,
No.
and what do you think about my kind of things will fall in place if you focus on the internal, which is my whole mode, my whole construction of this kind of thing is very different from what you're saying. Obviously, that whole bullshit about not working, but the idea of just go in there and things will take care of themselves.
Well, no, but I happen to agree with that. I agree with that. I just don't think that most people can do that. Okay? I think most people need these external things, and these, like, they need, like, what do they call it? Landmarks, They need that stuff. They need this, like, they need that stuff, or else they can't continue to work on something that appears to be abstract, because they can't see where they can't see where it's going. They can't imagine how things could work out. I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
Because it makes things more of an adventure. Now, understand what I was saying. I wasn't saying that when I said order steps being ordered, I didn't say that we knew what the order was. We never know what the order is. We never know what the order is. But I'm just saying that if you think that sequence is unimportant, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And you mentioned skeptical of, so it's not a question of completely writing somebody off when they say that something. It's, hey, I'm going to be skeptical here, and I'm going to see if you actually are operating in this intuitive mode, which is more focused on the internal, more very aware of the chaos that is involved. While objectively, when you look at things, you're gonna they need to fit, right? The key is gonna go in the keyhole and it's gonna fit in a certain way. But internally, this person is just dealing with chaos, right? It's just it's like a chaotic kind of thing, and that's what they have to deal with. And they're rolling. And anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we get the point. We're approaching that time. Let's see what the rest of what Graham has to say. We've taken many detours in this conversation, Dr. Thunder.
An excuse to not do something. Just go and do it anyway. So my advice for finding a mentor is not to wait around to find a mentor, is just to go and do it. If you want to be in real estate, go ahead and get your real estate license. Go ahead and start on that path. Go ahead and make things happen for yourself and not wait for someone to come around or not wait for this moment to happen that's going to change your life. Just go and do it anyway. In each one of my circumstances of finding a mentor, I've never once thought I would find a mentor. That wasn't even crossing my radar. It just happened naturally. So in each of the circumstances, it was not me going up asking for something. It was me going up, showing my enthusiasm, and it just happening naturally and organically. There are also a lot of great organizations online for you to get involved in. Chances are, no matter what you're doing, there's an online forum that you can join and be a part of and exchange ideas and interests and activities. Like for all my financial interests and stuff like that, I go on a forum on Reddit. It's called Financial Independence. And I spend hours there and I answer comments, I read comments, and I just become a part of this community. It's not necessarily like I have one mentor, but I'm learning from the collective group as a whole. And that's what's so powerful about the internet, is that chances are, no matter what you're into, you can find a mentor from that, and you can learn from a multitude of people, even from you watching this video. Chances are there are YouTube videos exactly what you want to do. So it's about taking the advice that you're able to learn on your own. Do the research on your own. Start this on your own. And you're just naturally going to meet people who are going to want to see you succeed, and they're going to want to help you out. So as always, you guys, I really hope this video helps. I really appreciate you watching. And again, it's less about going up to somebody asking.
And now I'm going to sell you my mentorship program. Okay, Graham. Well, I think I think we got it. Yeah. So he's made the points that we made even before we start the video. And let me go ahead and did you have something you were going to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, we said that, hey, there are a couple of areas in which this mentorship thing has been kind of overblown. And that's because of the commercial aspect. There's a coach landscape out there, a guru landscape out there, and an influencer. Oh, I forgot that one. Oh my God, landscape out there. Apparently, you're an influencer. You ended up in what is it, Elle magazine? I don't know. Is that
yeah?
a secret?
Here, I'll cite it for you.
You cite it?
This is an article written. This is called "My Brush with the Black Manosphere," an article by Nicole Young, and it was published today. I know Obsidian has done a response. I haven't been able to see it yet. And actually, the only reason I knew the article existed is because LAR Movement, who I interviewed last night, that interview went up on my channel this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good interview, really good talk. But he sent me the link to the article saying that I was mentioned in the article. But even right from the beginning of this article, it's some hogwash. I mean, she's getting some details wrong, and terminology. And she's citing Aaron Fountain Jr., who was a PhD candidate at Indiana University, and he has written a couple articles that were anti-Black manosphere, and there was a lot of terms that he used in the article that just showed that he didn't understand. He didn't know what he was talking about. But anyhow, she said something about Mr. Palmer. And of course, I have interviewed Mr. Palmer. That was probably her entry point. So I seriously doubt that she has done any real research on my content. But this is what she says. I'll say the whole sentence. In his lane, influencer Mr. Palmer has coined the term baby mama terrorists, or BMT, and he and his followers sport F child support hats. Dr. Sean Thunder Wallace, a tenured professor at The Ohio State University, is an influencer whose work teeters at the edge of the manosphere, beckoning in black men who might want to explore further. That's the extent that I make an appearance, but even the context that she cites it in is, I think, inaccurate. I don't know that I'm beckoning in black men who might want to explore further. And of course, it makes no mention of my my other content or anything. So she's out for blood. And I
Interesting.
will
I
be
wonder what.
reaching out to. I will be reaching
Okay.
out to her. I will be reaching out to her to see if she'll sit down with me to have a conversation on my conversations with Dr. Thunder. We'll see if she's, she mentioned my name. Let's see if she's willing to sit down and have a conversation with me. We'll see.
I wonder what Obsidian's response was like. And there's a whole. The thing about the inaccuracies, I always find interesting in the sense that it's interesting to note that they're there, right? And it's indicative of something. Not being thorough with your research, for example. But in terms of persuasion, and this is me just because this came up, and it's an adjacent topic in my head. In terms of persuasion, it doesn't work to point out inaccuracies.
Right.
You know why? I mean, you already see the. Yeah. You're gonna get into the back and forth, and it's like it doesn't.
Right.
Because and also
it doesn't
it
work.
always
Nope.
it always seems defensive as well, because you're like, oh, you didn't get the name of the whatever, right? It's like, well, the point that the position of strength is, it doesn't matter what you didn't get right in terms of the name of this. Is like, you are categorically wrong in even coming at me this way or understanding the basis of blah blah blah, and your whole thing is BS. In other words, it's always, you got to go nuclear with
Yeah.
with stuff. You can't.
Well,
Yeah.
apparently she had a bad experience with someone that used some terminology like hypergamy or hypergamous. He mentioned that now she says that she's a feminist, and she's a black feminist. And apparently he said that that's usually that's usually a what do you call it, a deal killer or whatever, that kind of thing. And she makes this assessment that the space is built around, though there are, as it's said here, within the black manosphere's fiefdom, there are many subgroups, rival influencers, competing philosophies, and myriad content creators. But each of them contain one common thread: a concerted, explicit disdain for black women. So this is what
Yes.
this is what she's coming. This is what she's coming with.
Yeah. That's what she's coming with. And then, anyways, let me not get into my mode, and then I'll be like, okay. Yes. Misogyny is this is the that's grade one. Yeah, you gotta, that's the ticket. You gotta be a misogynist. But the fact that being a feminist is a deal killer is not. You don't need to go to the internet to find that out. In terms of, it may not be stated explicitly, but there's a reason why some women especially for in places. I think I've said this before that um, when okay, there's certain places you are at, and if the women see a certain kind of status that they may want. I think the example I used was like, I was at this nice place in penthouse in Seattle, and one of the things the women would say is, "I'm not a feminist." Why do you think they say that? Okay, they know it's a deal killer. They know it's not. It's stupid. Like, why would any man want some kind of? They have to deal with some kind of ideology. You know, it's like
No.
no, I'm not trying to deal with ideology. All right, you already got a loud mouth, and you're already emotional, anyways. Anyways, so Dr. Thunder, I was gonna give a quick recap, and then I'll give you the last word. Basically, we're saying that hey, look,
Sure.
there is a overrated aspect of over promoting the idea of mentorship because people are trying to sell you stuff. They're trying to sell you a course. They're trying to sell you. They're kind of send you down some click funnel where they're going to sell you both programs, courses, tickets to their conference. And in the conference, they're going to sell you more stuff. So that kind of thing. And then there's another thing where some people think that mentorship is going to replace fatherhood, right? That, if you just
Mm.
mentor the community, things are going to be better. That's utter BS. So we've said that, hey, mentorship tends to be within the context of achieving some particular end. And then within that context, let's say master apprentice relationship, within that context of I'm trying to become a mechanic, I'm trying to become whatever, you're going to learn many things about life, right? Because whenever you're learning a discipline, you also learn discipline, right? So we then went and further said, hey, there's going to be maybe at least three things, which we kind of agreed, and we're not seeing that anything else strays away from these three things in the sense that I believe number one is that a mentor is going to be ahead of you. Going to be higher up in the totem pole with regards to what you're trying to do. You're doing YouTube, you reach out to people who are already doing YouTube, as you said, right? And then number two, they're going to be a role model. Number three, they're going to keep you accountable, right? So these three things abstractly will suffuse the category of mentorship of any mentor that you have. And then Dr. Thunder was telling us that, look, you got to start doing the stuff. It is not, Graham also agreed. It is not about you sitting there and thinking that the mentor is the golden ticket. It's like, no, you got to bring value. You got to be of interest. You got to be interesting. And then dovetailing with that was the idea that people whom have the golden egg, okay, are not necessarily hiding it from those whom they think are worthy. And from those who they think the worthy part is key. Some people think that they should just be given stuff, or some people think that they deserve your attention, right? Which Dr. Thunder, in his introvert way, has already said that no, you don't deserve my attention, okay? and and I think that we have a kind of a good grasp as to how one goes about finding that mentor because it's all about you doing what you do. And then there's differences in personalities such that you can abstract and create a Frankenstein mentor. And you have to eat the meat, spit out the bones, stop trying to worship people, right? And say, oh, if I don't agree with them 100%, if they're not the second coming of Jesus Christ, if everything doesn't line up, if they've ever been divorced, if anything is ever, if they were lucky, then I can't. It's like you are doing something which, to anyone whom is actually on the path of success, you look crazy because you should not have the kind of time to be scrutinizing people that way. You should be looking for exactly what you're looking for. How does he play? How does he improvise when this chord change happens? Right? I don't care what he does. I don't care what his life is like. like, anyways, Dr. Thunder, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, let me first do some shameless plugging, and then I'll share my final thoughts. This is my upcoming show right here on Thunder's Thoughts this coming Thursday, this week, Thursday the 27th, at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Dr. Doug. Separate but equal, not a bad thing. And look how surprised the lady up in the corner if that thumbnail looks. Yes, that is to get people to click on it. Anyhow, it's going to be a review of a couple really interesting videos. Got a video of Malcolm X. It's from an interview he did. And let's see here. This is a picture right here, separate but not equal, with a sort of an ornate looking, white fountain for white people, and then the old style, sort of well pump for the black people. Separate but not equal. So anyhow, that's going to be an interesting show, thought-provoking kind of show. We'll be talking also about the whole forced integration thing and aspects of civil rights and all of that kind of stuff. But it's going to be real cool show. Let's see here, and then Sunday we've got Case Closed, and that'll be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Keep your ear to the ground on that. We had a great show on Ike's channel this past Sunday, and we had a couple first-timers on the panel, Lauren, Melissa, and also the real Dana. And then, of course, LAR was pinch hitting for solo. Ramil was there, and then Ike and I. So we had a real good talk about some hot sauce. And and then be back here with Ike, getting ish done, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. So make sure you come and check that out. So that's the latest and greatest. As far as my final thoughts, I mean, I think mentorship is important. I believe it to be important, but I think the way that you go about it, how you acquire, I think, meaningful mentorship, I think it's more about the doing and finding people along your journey. And I think everyone's different. I think some folks, they may need some sort of, the structure of it may need to be more developed for them to get what they need to get. And other folks, maybe like Ike and I, we just are just going to get the stuff that we want, take it from where we want to take it, and still be greatly benefited by it.
All right. Well put, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, we are gone. Yeah. So let's have a voiceover here. Really, that's an emphatic peace sign, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Young man, do you want to succeed, to expand beyond your horizons? If you want to be free, then you must learn to master yourself, your thoughts, feelings, your body and spirit. Master your subjective consciousness. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. The world outside of yourself is ruled by those who are not ruled by their base instincts. Young man, go forth into the world after this. Meditate, contemplate, then plan and execute an action towards success. Take a risk, break the rules, and be disciplined within self.